Moment it's in, where is it, New York, then it's going to San Francisco, then Los Angeles, then it will return here. So what we have is a replica of the Cyrus cylinder. You can buy a replica downstairs for £4,500. So if you can't get that clock for me, I'm very open to receiving one of these. Cyrus is one of the great kings of the ancient world. He appears in the Old Testament, books Ezra, Nehemiah, etc. And he's the one who allowed the Jews to go back after the 70 years exile, and he said he was going to pay from his own exchequer for the rebuilding of their temple and their city. A lot of people didn't believe any ancient king would do something so stupid until this was discovered. He doesn't mention the Hebrews, but he mentions other people groups, and he's sending them back, and he's going to pay for the rebuilding in this order of their temples and their cities from his own exchequer. In fact, it was a very clever and shrewd political move, because if you did that, hopefully they'll remain your friends, and it was a lot cheaper than going to war against them. It is such an important document that in England we refer to it as the early Magna Carta. Magna Carta was signed between the barons and King John down at Runnymede to allow a Charter of Freedom. And so there's a replica of this in New York in the United Nations building between the Security Council chamber and the Ordinary Council chamber, with the text written out in the 22 main languages of Earth, whatever they may be. I hope it includes English, but there we go, as well as American English, and in the hope that the delegates of the United Nations will do all they can to let people go back to their own countries and, if necessary, pay for the rebuilding of the infrastructure of their societies. So it's a very powerful image. Then just behind me are for many people, treasure is gold and jewels and everything else, but for quite a number of archaeologists, it's little clay tablets like this, because they're stuffed full of information. Number one here is a very rare one, because it refers particularly to the husband of Queen Esther, who we now call Xerxes, and his death. His death was engineered by his previous wife Vashti, who we read about in the Bible. She actually survived, and she caused her son to get some conspirators to murder her husband, because he'd obviously dumped her, if you know the account. And the speculation is, and we don't know, but the speculation is if Queen Esther was still alive, what did Vashti do to her to get her own back? So it's very interesting. Who knows what else may come out of the ground to illuminate that period. We also have other things that talk about here. Alexander's defeat of Darius III, a very famous battle that took place, and when he actually started to take over the whole of the Persian Empire. But for many of us here, it's the gold that you will see in a minute, including the gold drinking cup, which reminds us of the Bible character called Nehemiah. Nehemiah was cupbearer to the king. It was his job to make sure that the king's wine wasn't poisoned. So he would be given the goblet with wine in it, something like this, and he would come and pour it. You'll see just down there a little gold cup, but he would have to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Surprisingly, the ancient Persians didn't just have cups cup-shaped, they also had them what I would call plate or dish-shaped. And we've got a number of them in these drinking bowls. This one I think is particularly interesting, and I have to be careful I don't go over the top, because the inscription that runs round it tells us it's a drinking bowl of Artaxerxes I. Who did Nehemiah serve? Artaxerxes I. So if you can find me Nehemiah's DNA or fingerprints, it's probably up there. And in some ways I think that's the closest I can get you to a Bible person today, something they probably handled. I also, by default, do tours around the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and they've got one there very similar to this. So when you come with me to New York after we've done all the Middle Eastern countries, I'll show you that as well. So that is really significant. Okay, do take